Hello everybody and welcome back to Heiner Builds Your Ride. Today with the Toyota Landcruiser Prado. This one is probably one of the best mine spec Prados you will ever see. But before we get into it, let's roll the intro. We start at the front. What we've got is our mine spec favorites, the Hella Rock 80 driving lights and extremely sturdy lights, good light at 5000 Kelvin, which is quite important for safety in a mining vehicle, just in case these guys have to drive at night. It's very clean under the bonnet. There's no secondary battery under the bonnet. All we have got is just a power supply going to the back for the DC hub that we've got installed, and then also the driving light power pickup here. But other things that we've got here is obviously aerial. This one's a bit special. This is not your usual two-way. This is actually a VHF that they use for their intercommunication with a very long range. This here is the 2.1 dB gain aerial from GME, which is coupled to a GME XRS 370, but I'll show you that on the inside. The more important and more interesting stuff is happening in the back. So this has been converted from a 5-seater or 7-seater originally, only to a 2-seater, but I'll start from the back and show you all the other bits and pieces. We've got an MSA drawer system in here, with a MSA fridge cage and an MSA drop slide. This makes it really easy to get to your fridge. This has got quite a big National Lunar Legacy 90-liter fridge freezer in here. You can drop that right down, which makes it nice and easy to get to your fridge. You've got the big compartment here that you can set up as a fridge, and then the smaller compartment on the side that you can use as a freezer, or you can use them both as a freezer, or you can use them both as a fridge. That is completely up to you. If you use them both as a fridge, you can just leave that bit out. Nice sturdy latches on these, and twin temperature control, which is really handy as well, where you can individually set the temperature of the compartments. Not all fridge freezers come with that feature. Some of them you can just adjust one temperature and the other bit just automatically does its thing. Also one thing that you might have not noticed on National Lunar fridges. In case you want to leave these open, you can just clip them in like this, and that way your fridge doesn't start to smell when you leave it without running it. I'll put this back in. Whoops. A really nice feature for these is the cage around the fridge, because this allows you to pack up the sides and the top around the fridge without things actually falling behind the fridge when you pull it out. If you like to load up the back of your car all the way to the top, it is really important that you get a fridge cage, because otherwise as soon as you pull the fridge out, everything falls behind the fridge, and then you have to make room, take everything out, put the fridge. It'll get very annoying very quickly. These drawers have a very easy unlock mechanism, so they clip in and then they open up, and once you pull them out all the way, they've got a light inside the drawers. There's a light bar installed here, and you can also control it with a switch, and this light turns on and off as soon as you got the drawers all the way out. If I push that back in, they turn off. And you can feel these are quite sturdy. They clip into their final resting position, which if you stand on a lean towards the front somewhere, you don't have to hold them all the time to keep them open. You just have to give them a good shove to close them again. These are extremely sturdy drawers. They'll probably outlast the vehicle. We've also put an ARB twin piston compressor on an ARB bracket behind the panels there. You can't see any of it. All you can see is just where you can plug in your compressor hose to inflate your tires or to use an air blower to clean the car. And then there's the compressor switch right underneath there. The compressor does run off the secondary battery. There's a 150 amp hour lithium battery in here that powers the compressor, so you don't have to run the engine to have the compressor going. Of course, as we usually do, we've got our National Lunar light on the tailgate here, so at night when you're around here, you can actually see everything. And you can also you can dim it in 3 different settings, and you can change the light from orange to white just by holding it for 3 seconds. Then it turns back off. On the brightest setting, this is actually really bright, and it's quite nicely and evenly dispersed light. Makes for a very good night light. Furthermore, before we get into the back of the vehicle, we've got installations on the roof as well. We always run the cable out of the tail light here, P-clamp it and Sikaflex up the side, silicon fiberglass sleeving, and then we've got a Deutsch plug to actually connect the roof installation. There's a little aerial here as well, because the vehicle has got a self-I-go system, and we've used these little aerials that are usually made for houses on the roof. They got quite a high gain, and they work quite well with the self-I-go system if you don't want a massive aerial somewhere. On that side, we've got a beacon slightly raised up so you can see it from everywhere, and we've got a 180 watt solar panel from Redarc on the roof, so the fridge can keep going when the vehicle is parked at the airport somewhere, waiting for the next person to jump in when they change over vehicles after the shift. Can close that again. Oh, I forgot to show you something on the front. This has also got satellite communication. And you used to get quite a big chunky area for the satellite communication. Now we found these little areas that do the same thing. You will hardly notice. So all we do is we make a little adapter plate out of metal, because these are magnetic, but they are really solid. This is not going to come off by itself. So you'll hardly notice it. Usually you had an area sitting here about this high, quite bulky, bit like a inverted mushroom. This is a lot better solution for it. But now let me show you the interesting part. You can see we have deleted the rear seats in here, put a cargo barrier in, so this vehicle can be loaded up quite nicely. The internals have been built by Custom Overland Solutions by Rob and Chris. So this box here is custom made, and they've made it in a way that it's the same level as the MSA drawer system in the back. Then we've got these aircraft style tie down points here. So you can clip your hooks in and strap whatever you want to load up in here. This side here is the electric compartment. So you can just take this out, place it here for now. This is where the whole electric installation has got its place. So what we've got is, like I said, the 150 amp hour Amptron lithium battery. We've got a Victron 1200 watt inverter because these guys have to charge a lot of 240 volt equipment, which is in the charging station here. I'll show you that a little bit later. We have got a Redarc BCDC 1240D on the front of the drawer system. That way it is in the cabin, and when somebody's driving the car, the aircon of the car will automatically help keep the BCDC charger cold as well. So it's not exposed to 30, 40, 50 degree ambient temperature. It will always have the same ambient temperature as the driver has, which is most likely somewhere in between 20 and 24 degrees, which means the unit doesn't derate and can charge flat out all the time. In here we've got a twin A&L fuse holder with what we call the primary power distribution. One A&L fuse is a pre-fuse for the DC hub. The other A&L fuse is a fuse for the Victron Phoenix 1200 VA is the correct way of putting it. It's not a 1200 watt inverter, it's a 1200 VA inverter. The wattage is slightly less. Underneath the A&L fuses, we've got a shunt from Victron. This is part of the BMW 712 battery monitoring system. The monitor is in the charge station on the side here. Then we have got the Selfie Go system that is coupled with the aerial on the roof rack I showed you before. And we also do this. This is an override switch. We usually put these override switches together with BCDC chargers from Redarc when we connect them to a lithium battery. The idea here is that if this battery gets fully discharged, it will protect itself by turning off, which means you end up in a deadlock situation because the charger won't turn on unless it sees at least 4 volts on the connection to the secondary battery. But see, this is where it gets complicated. The battery is shut down and there's 0 volt to it, so nothing will happen. You can run the engine, but the charger will never kick back in because it doesn't see at least 4 volt, and the battery doesn't turn on because it doesn't get any charge. So what we do is we install a momentary switch together with a resistor that you can also use when you install LED lights on your vehicle for the indicators so that you still get the right flashing sequence. It's just to put some load on there. What we do with this is that we use the power supply from the start battery going to the DC hub to go to one side of the resistor, and then the charge connection from the DC hub to this battery, and we connect that to the other side of the switch. So once you press the switch, you actually connect the start battery to the lithium battery with the resistor in between, which allows about 2 amps to flow through, which is just enough to kickstart that battery again. So as soon as the engine is running and you hold this for about 10 seconds, the battery comes back online. The DC-DC charger sees the battery, that kicks back in, and you've automatically restarted the whole charging system. It's quite an easy way of doing it because the parts for it are quite cheap, and it's a very, very analog manual way of creating a safety circuit in here. Furthermore, in here we have got the Egon DC hub, which is obviously, as you guys know by now, the center bit that connects everything together. This unit connects the DC-DC charger, the start battery, the roof solar, and all the other circuits for charging different outlets here, the fridge, the lights, power supply for other bits. It's all coming from this one module. And what fleet companies, mining companies love about this product is that when we do an installation with these, all the other vehicles, and we're building multiple of these vehicles, will have the exact same fuse layout in the exact same spot. So if driver of Prado number 1 has to jump into Prado number 3 to go to site, all the fuses everywhere will be exactly the same. So these vehicles are now interchangeable in between drivers, and it's not like back in the days when you had fuses all over the place and nobody knew what they were for. In here, there is a leaflet in the vehicle handbook that will say fuse F1 is such and such, fuse F2 is such and such. And F1, 2, 3 is labeled on the circuit board so everybody can check fuses, because everything's in the same place and everything's built the exact same way. So fleet managers love this type of install because they actually get the same vehicles, not vehicles that are slightly the same but then really just different. Also in here is a quick fit bracket to put the VHF radio in. We pre-wire these, everything is there, so all the operators have to do is put the VHF radio in and then just plug it in later on, and it automatically connects the handpiece that is in the roof console. It connects the aerial and it connects the power supply to the unit. And that way, just in case they have to service this, it's very easy to take the radio out, give it a different program just in case something changes, put it back in, connect it back up, and the vehicle can go again. On this side, not very electric, but very handy. There's a storage compartment just for little bits and pieces that the driver might use. Very nicely built from Custom Overland Solutions. Such a snug fit, nothing will rattle in these. I'll close this side back up. I'll show you the charge station over here. This is the charge/interface station of the vehicle. What we've got here is the Iridium Go system. This is the satellite radio communication. So you can connect your mobile phone to it and then do satellite telephone calls through an app with your normal mobile phone. We've also got accessory sockets in here, more accessory sockets, and then USB charge ports, including USB 3. Some of these are being used to charge the Iridium Go. Then we've got the Victron BMW 712 monitor in here, where you can see batteries are charged 100%. There's 0 amp hours missing out of the battery. You can just click through, you can see the wattage. Good thing about these is you can also connect your phone to it with Bluetooth, and while you're driving, you can see all the information about how your battery is being charged, and you can see a lot more. You can see history of the charge status of the battery and so on and so forth. Also over here, we've got our inverter that can suck in fresh air through here, so it cools well, and you can turn the inverter on and off right through that switch there, which will then power up the power board, and they can lie down all their little gadgets and gimmicks that they need on site, plug them in and keep them charged as long as they keep the inverter going. Good thing about the carpet here is that all these little charge adapters, all you need to do is just have a bit of Velcro on them. You can just sit them on here and there, on there, and they will just stay where they are without falling down and disappearing somewhere inside the car. That's the little charge station. We like building these charge stations. I think they're a great idea, just to place somewhere in the car where you put all the little gadgets and gimmicks, head torches, camera equipment, for these guys, detector equipment that they put in here, and you just keep it charged. And when you need any of these things, you take them out of here and you know they're charged because they're actually hooked up to a charger almost all the time. These have also been fitted with ARB base racks with a wind deflector. This makes sure there isn't any wind noise when you're driving. A really nice thing about these as well is they're quite slimline, so you don't add a lot of height to the vehicle. And if you want to wire extra accessories to it, these have got cable channels in the side rails, which makes it really easy and very clean. We didn't need it on this occasion, but in general, they are a great idea because all the cables can run inside the roof rack. We have got a Redarc Tow Pro unit installed. It is behind the panels on our new bracket that we've made for Prado 150 series, so the unit itself sits behind there. And then we've also got a switch for the driving lights, obviously triggered through the high beam trigger. So as soon as the switch is on and you turn your high beams on, the driving lights will come on at the same time. Cool, on the inside of these cool Prados, we have got an EC off-road head unit that is linked together with the tire pressure monitoring system. So you can see the tire pressures and you get alarms just in case they are going to the wrong direction. Otherwise you got your normal stuff in here. Quite cool units, this one. Also we got the RAM mount holder for your phone, then extra switches for the beacon, for example. And also really nice, and these are the roof consoles from the Department of the Interior, and we put the handpiece for the radio up the top here, and there's usually another handpiece mounted right here for the VHF that this company is using for their vehicles. And then we've got the extra charge port here with the high-speed charging, so you can keep your phone plugged in and you haven't got cables flying around everywhere. Really nice interior. Good drive. Shame it's a work car. I reckon this makes for a pretty good work car. I think a lot of people would wish to have this thing as a camping car. Suppose the only thing left to do is give this our patch of approval. This one is now officially ready to drive anywhere. Thanks and see you for the next one.